I have no rules when I play poker.
I don't want to lose a pot to anybody.
I thought that I could accomplish great things in poker, and then I did.
I wouldn't be a poker player if I wasn't confident enough to say that I feel like I belong in the top 10.
They are the best of the best, and they have come to Las Vegas to prove it. But this time the field is not 2,600, it's 10, an elite 10, doing battle at one poker table, the ultimate table.
The level of skill you're going to see at this poker game is like nothing you've seen up to this point.
It's the best players in the world. 10 distinct styles.
There's no strangers on this table.
All of us are going to consider what we know about the other players and how we can best take advantage of that.
It's going to take more than just being able to play cards to beat these guys.
Each player with impeccable credentials, each hoping to become the champion of champions.
I think it's a fantastic opportunity.
I really want to prove that I'm as good as these guys.
This is for the real thing.
The top 9 ranked players in the world and the reigning world champion. To win this thing would just be like, wow.
10 players, one table, $2 million, winner take all. Welcome to the Rio Hotel and Casino for the World Series of Poker Tournament of Champions. 10 of the greatest poker players on the planet have assembled for a winner-take-all shot at $2 million. The table is as good as it gets. In the one seat, the $5 million man, Fossil Man, Greg Raymer. Moving around the table, the dangerous Phil Ivey. All-round champion, Daniel Negreanu. Cash game specialist, Chip Reese. The leading lady of poker, Annie Duke. The feared Johnny Chan. Venerable T.J. Cloutier. Always volatile Phil Hellmuth. The legendary Doyle Brunson. And rounding out the table is the Professor, Howard Lederer.
Hello, everybody. I'm Lon McCarron alongside Norman Chad. You know, of course, baseball has its Midsummer Classic, basketball, its All-Star Game, football, a Pro Bowl. Well, here in poker now we have a Tournament of Champions. And, of course, the difference in this best of the best forum, the winner will walk away with a cool $2 million.
This is a who's who of poker royalty, Lon, a group of players so impressive it's nearly impossible to handicap the field. I'm not qualified, so I'm not even going to try. But there are 2 X factors to watch. Greg Raymer, who didn't keep this type of company until winning the World Series main event this year, and Chip Reese, the one name at the table you might not know, but a cash game specialist who just might be the greatest poker player of all time.
All 10 of our players start with 200,000 chips. We will play until one player has them all, and they will then be $2 million richer. 45 World Series of Poker bracelets represented at this table.
Lon, this is what a poker table should look like. You got nobody here is going to do the icky shuffle once they win a hand.
Johnny Chan, the 2-time world champion, with a 6-7 offsuit. It goes 7,000.
Wow, John, you got TJ, me, and Doyle right behind you.
Good thing Phil pointed that out. Johnny might not have noticed that.
TJ folds over to Phil Hellmuth, 2 7s, and he will call. Action now to Doyle Brunson, also a back-to-back world champion. He's got a pair of 9s.
He'll call. Each of these 3 players in the hand have a record 9 World Series bracelets.
To the flop, and along with his 9s, Brunson picks up a straight draw.
But Phil is going to be the aggressor, and he will bet 4,000.
It's up to Doyle now. He's got the lead. Oh, and he throws them away.
Well, he sees 3 overcards, and people play tight here early. Nobody wants to go out early in this competition. Johnny's got nothing.
And Johnny Chan will fold just behind Doyle Brunson and Phil Hellmuth with his pair of 7s, and his bet scares everybody away.
Sometimes you can send a little boy to do a man's job just as well.
I still remember Benetti said that to me at the '89 World Series of Poker.
Oh, yeah?
Never send a boy to do a man's job, he said, you know, Benetti. And I shrunk back in my chair. But I did come back and win it.
Did you come back and win it?
Phil Hellmuth, as he will tell you often, is one of the best no-limit Texas Hold'em champions. Here are the rules for Texas Hold'em. Each player is first dealt 2 down cards. A round of betting then occurs as players decide for the first time if they're in or they're out. Then come the community cards with the flop, the turn, and the river, with a round of betting after each. In the end, the best 5-card combination wins the hand and takes the pot. Intimidation is such a big part of being a successful player. Is that going to come into play at this table, you think?
Oh, not really. In fact, these players know each other so well. If one of them sneezes, somebody else has already handed them a handkerchief.
Well, we saw most of the table fold over to Daniel Negreanu. Ace-king, off-suited, and he will bet 6,000. Annie Duke now with a pair of 10s. And Annie will raise it to 20,000 now. Over to Daniel Negreanu, who was the 2004 World Series of Poker Player of the Year. And he will make the call.
Two big hands as we go to the flop.
And the flop comes 5, King 8, a pair of kings for Daniel. And Annie will come out with 30,000.
Daniel used to play poker 40 hours a week as a teenager. It was a lot easier then.
I don't want to be the first one out.
Players are cautious early here.
But what the heck? He will call. Negreanu in a firm command of this hand going to the turn. It's a queen of hearts. No help for Annie Duke. Annie checks and Daniel will check. And to the river we go. It's a 9 of spades. And you see the check mark next to Daniel's name. He has the best hand. He'll only lose if he folds.
And Annie Duke has checked.
And Daniel will push with 50,000 chips.
Well, Annie started with the 10s, she ends with the 10s, and she gives it up correctly.
The first bluff in the Tournament of Champions, right?
First bluff.
So Annie loses about a quarter of her stack and puts her in a deep hole against this heavy-hitting table, a table where anyone can win.
If I had to pick one player out of the whole thing,
I'd like to see the guy that answers that question.
I would predict that I'd have the best chance to win it.
Well, I'd certainly like to see Annie win.
My brother. And I'm not just saying that because he's my brother.
I believe I'm going to win it.
Greg Raymer is the world champion!
All I know about Greg is what I've seen on TV.
I think it will work to his advantage because I've got no idea what kind of player he is.
My personal favorite to win the tournament is probably Daniel Negreanu.
He's a fierce competitor. He's tough to play against.
I'd say Daniel or Johnny Chan.
I'm not sure that there's anybody in the world that's better at reading other people than Johnny Chan is. He sees everything.
Good boys. Hands over now.
He is going to be a problem.
Ivey's on form.
I think Phil has more raw talent than anybody out there today.
I'm just scared of Phil Ivey, man.
Chip is a force to be reckoned with. He's very smooth. I like the way Chip plays.
Whenever he put his money in the pot, normally he's got it.
Nobody sitting at the table is not capable of winning.
It's going to be a very interesting table to play.
The strength of this table can't be overstated. We've got 3 Hall of Famers.
Doyle Brunson, Johnny Chan, and Chip Reese, and all 3 probably better cash game players than they are tournament players.
Action over to Howard Lederer, also known as Bub.
Wow, what a surprise. We should all bet on when Howard finally actually enters a pot.
Howard's sister Annie Duke, razzing bro. I'm not sure he took too kindly to it. To Daniel Negreanu with 7-4 suited in spades, and he will bet 6,000 to Chip Reese. Couple of spades also with a king 10.
Chip calls. Daniel won his first World Series bracelet at age 23.
See how graceful you play this hand.
And Chip started playing in Las Vegas at age 23. Both were very good very early.
And we've got a lot of spades going. Negreanu also has a pair of 4s, both with a flush draw. Reese has the better flush draw, though.
Daniel bet 8,000, and Chip Reese called.
The turn is a 3. Now Daniel Negreanu has a straight draw, and he checks. And Chip Reese will check as well. To the river now. Both make a flush, but Reese with a nut flush.
Yeah, they both make the best possible card for their hands.
That's Daniel checking over to Chip Reese.
Daniel probably trying to set a trap. But Chip Reese, making a small bet of only $15,000, has set his own trap.
Now Daniel, with that 30,000 chip raise, thinks his trap is working when in fact he is the one trapped.
I almost just called.
And a 60,000 chip raise from Reese tells Daniel he may have been outmaneuvered.
Oh, I should have just called.
They both were setting each other up, but Chip had the better cards for the better trap.
Sorry, guys. If I would have just called, this would have been a lot easier. Got greedy.
Daniel always with his heart on his sleeve when he's heads up.
15 on the river.
He often will talk out his thinking process when he's heads up, whether he wants to call or not, what type of hand his opponent might have.
I am confused. I gotta see this one.
He's gonna pay to see what Chip Reese has.
I made one too. I had a pair and a flush draw.
Everybody says Chip Reese is one of the best in the world. He's showing it here.
The World Series of Poker Tournament of Champions is proudly brought to you by Harrah's Entertainment.
Welcome back to the Rio. 10 players, $2 million, winner take all. Best of the best here at this table.
How old was this thing? About a million year?
No, they're both like about 300 million years old.
300 million years old.
Almost as old as Doyle.
Greg Raymer's fossils have grabbed some attention at this table.
I was gonna say, if I'm somehow still at the table and I've taken 3, 4, 5 bad beats, they're gonna be littering the table with fossils here.
Johnny loves fossil humor.
Makes sense. So we're barely great at loan for.
Greg uses those fossils as a card protector. It worked well at the main event. Action now over to TJ Cloutier with an ace-jack offsuit. TJ perhaps the best tournament player never to win the main event. He'll bet 7,000. Over to Phil Hellmuth with a couple of deuces, and he will call.
And Phil, perhaps the greatest player to ever win the main event. Phil told me that the other day.
Now Fossil Man, Greg Raymer, ace-3, couple of spades, and he will call. 3 players to the flop. The glasses go on, Greg Raymer.
Yeah, even against the seasoned pros, he goes through his rhythm.
Now the flop, 10, 5, 8, 2 spades, Raymer with a flush draw.
TJ checks. Phil Hellmuth checks.
Greg Raymer follows suit. To the turn. It's a king of clubs. Phil Hellmuth still in the lead here.
It's checked over to Raymer again, and this time he decides to be the aggressor.
20,000. TJ folds.
Just on a draw, but usually the aggressor gets the spoils in Hold'em.
I gotta check the flop. Another bad move.
Phil folds, and the rabbit cam shows that his deuces would have held up.
Raymer shows he can hang with the Hall of Famers.
Put me on a flush draw.
I had to put you on something.
You see, normally when I'm at a table, like at the World Series of Poker, and I call a $7,000 raise, none of the amateurs know what the hell I have when I'm playing pretty tight. But here, like 7 players know what I have when I called that raise. So.
What did he have?
You might not be one of them. I would bet $1 million that I could select 3 players here and they could tell you what I had.
I call it.
Not my exact 2 cards.
Raymer is immune to trash talking. So immune, in fact, that he begins our countdown of the World Series' most memorable moments.
The World Series of Poker. Memorable moment number 10.
You gotta stop with me, buddy. I'm gonna bust you if you me. I got steel. Steel.
It's always annoying when someone's trying to get under your skin.
You ain't playing with kids.
Mike will try to throw you off your game by saying things, by trash talking, etc.
I got big. You got little.
I just think it's impolite. It's not pleasant. What kind of chump does this guy think I am that he can spout this and bother me? Does he really think I'm that stupid? Usually if you fight back, you just end up looking like as big an idiot as they are.
All in.
There's no doubt that it was going to feel a little better to win a big pot from Mike than it was from anyone else in particular.
Told you I was gonna bust you. You came after me, didn't I? Call. Don't let me be wrong, God. No diamond, baby. I knew I had him.
Don't let me get unlucky! One time!
No diamond, baby.
I was very happy to make my flush and decimate Mike Mattisau's stack.
Thank you for busting me, man.
There were other critical pots that I won, but that was the pot of the tournament.
I love a good countdown, Norm. I can't wait for the other 9.
Maybe the rest of them will involve Mike Mattisau taunting other players who win the World Series of Poker.
Back to action now at this Tournament of Champions. Daniel Negreanu with ace-8 suited in diamonds. Over to Chip Reese, ace-queen unsuited. Daniel bet 4,000. Chip raises to 20.
Chip raises sometimes $500,000 of real money in the biggest cash game in the world he's been playing in for 30 years.
Without a blink of an eye, he does that too. Daniel calls, and these two will tangle again. So Daniel and Chip Reese with Reese in the lead. 2, 10, 4 on the flop. Reese still leads.
Chip wrote a chapter in Doyle Brunson's Super System book a generation ago, and now Daniel has written a chapter in Doyle's new Super System 2.
That's sure to be the New Testament in the Bible of poker. Both check to the turn. It's a king of clubs. Reese now with a straight draw.
Reese has a gut shot. He can make a straight with a jack.
Both check to the river. Reese gets that gut shot straight with a jack on the river.
It's good to be good, and it's better to be lucky.
Daniel Negreanu now will bet 28,000.
Daniel's going to bluff at this pot. Nice thought at the wrong moment.
75. You had ace-queen. Gosh. Well, I was hoping you didn't have ace-queen, but I guess you do.
Daniel knows he's beat and knows exactly what cards beat him.
Daniel Negreanu folds. Chip Reese wins the pot. So cash game specialist Chip Reese is 2 for 2 against Daniel Negreanu today. Cash game or tournament, Reese is seldom short of chips.
Chip, I think, is the consummate player. I think he's the best all-around player in the world.
Chip Reese has probably won more money playing poker than any other player in history.
He has poker smarts that are just scary.
He doesn't have these emotional highs and lows. He's just right there. He's the rock, the stone, the man.
My peers tell me I'm the best player in the world, and that means a lot to me because those are the people that I have to be with every day and play with every day.
Reese may just be the best player in what's known as the big game, a 3 decades-long gathering with the highest cash stakes anywhere.
The big game is the ultimate high in life. It really is. It's the best players in the world. We play against each other every day, and there's usually $1 million winner and $1 million loser every day.
Chip plays in the highest limit games. He's a great tournament player. He just hasn't played a lot of tournaments, so you don't see him very much.
Recently, all my friends were on television. My kids said, "Hey, Dad, how come you're supposed to be a good poker player? How come you're not on TV?" And I said, "Well, if you want to see me on TV, I'll start playing at a few tournaments again." And I can honestly tell you, playing in those tournaments every single day, it's a lot of work. And the guys that are doing that every day, hey, I take my hat off to them because it's not an easy thing to do.
Way back when, Chip Reese made 6 final tables in a single World Series of Poker, but he didn't win any of the tournaments, he didn't make that much money, and he determined he could make more money playing cash games.
I'm glad his kids prompted him to come out of his hiatus of tournaments. Good to see him. Chip Reese with King bets 12,000. TJ will fold over to the Phil Hellmuth. A couple of aces for Phil.
He was dead serious, too.
Boy, so we got kings, and behind them we got aces.
I remember that.
And everybody else is a shoe clerk, I tell you the truth. When there's aces and kings in the hand.
He was in Fort Worth.
Phil raised it to 36,000.
Clerk. These look like apprentice shoe clerks, Lon.
Action over to Chip Reese. Let's see now how he plays his kings. And he just calls. To the flop. 6-2 jack. Phil still leads with his aces.
Chip Reese checks.
30,000.
Phil bets 30,000. And Chip will call it. The stakes get higher. The turn card now, 8 of diamonds. No help for Chip Reese. He checks. And Phil Hellmuth pushes in. 56,000 chips.
Phil's pretty tight, particularly early in tournaments, and he has pushed the bet at each and every turn of this hand.
How much more is it down there, Phil?
40.
More.
It's like 50.
About 50.
Well, Hellmuth is almost out of chips. What concerns Chip Reese right now is he's got a notion he's beat. He's got kings, a great hand. But Phil has been aggressive all along the way here. And Reese has a notion that he might be beat in this hand right now.
A big lay down.
Yeah, he's thinking of getting rid of it. He thinks that Phil might have a set already. Phil might have pocket aces. And he's thinking of laying this down. I don't know how he lays it down. But he's the best player with great instincts, and he senses he might be in trouble.
But Reese does not lay it down. He raises Phil Hellmuth all in, and Phil calls. And now Hellmuth shows his aces, and Reese sees he's in trouble.
Yeah, Reese can knock out Hellmuth now with a king and king only on the river.
One card to come. It's another ace, and Phil Hellmuth wins the hand.
Reese was the chip leader coming into this hand, and he's nowhere near the chip lead now.
Reese lost almost 180,000 chips while Hellmuth doubles up. Back at the Rio, you look at our chip count. Phil Hellmuth with a pretty good lead, and 2 through 10 all bunched together pretty closely.
Haven't really heard much from Phil Ivey or Howard Lederer yet, Lon.
Annie Duke looking at a queen 10 offsuit. And she will raise to 11,000. Annie has 2 wins this year, one at the World Series, the 5-star World Poker Classic. Doyle Brunson with a couple of queens will call. Howard Lederer gets out of the way. The flop is 5, 6, 10, 3 diamonds.
Annie Duke makes top pair on the board, pair of 10s. She's still behind Doyle's queens, and he has the flush draw. Annie, though, is the one who bets.
Doyle just calls. Annie Duke studies him carefully. On the turn, another diamond. And so Doyle Brunson, with the check mark, has his hand won. If he doesn't fold, Annie Duke comes out with his 24,000 chips.
She wants to find out right now whether he has the flush. And actually, he does not re-raise, so she doesn't know or think he has the flush.
The river card, king of diamonds. There's a flush on the board.
But Doyle with the queen of diamonds, though, would have the higher flush.
Both check. Doyle Brunson turns over the winning cards, and Annie Duke looks confused and disgusted.
Doyle's been confusing opponents for about 50 years now.
Doyle's performance at this year's World Series reached its high point during the main event.
The World Series of Poker. Memorable moment number 9.
Quite simply, he's the man.
Take it down, Doyle!
Even in his 70s, Doyle Brunson once again proved that in the main event, he is still a force to be reckoned with.
Get in, Dolly.
Oh, I got no chance.
Doyle busted my.
It's the Doyle Brunson Show.
The show ran for 5 days as Brunson outlasted over 2,500 players on his way to 53rd place, and a rousing standing ovation from everyone in the room.
Jimmy the Greek was the first to call Brunson Texas Doyle, but reporters misheard the Greek once, thought he said Texas Dolly, and the name stuck.
The blinds now at 3,000 and 6,000. Annie Duke with a couple of jacks comes out with 18,000 chips. Chand folds. TJ Cloutier gets out of the way over to Phil Hellmuth.
TJ hasn't seen a thing today.
Over to Phil Hellmuth.
Crazy logic.
Do you pose for the camera each time it comes to you? What is the decision? Every hand.
I don't believe I've been that slow, Doyle. I don't believe I've been that slow, but if you say so, I'm going to respect you.
Every hand you study.
Hey, Phil Ivey, you're at the Tournament of Champions. Get involved. I love him. He's not doing much today.
Daniel Negreanu has a couple of 8s. The bet is 18,000 from Annie Duke, and Daniel will call.
Pair of 7s, my top hand.
So once again, Annie and Daniel meeting up. Last time they hooked up, Daniel took about a quarter of Annie's stack. 3 clubs, it's 2, 9, and 6 on the flop. Daniel is moving all in with about 125,000 chips.
He likes his pair, plus he has the club draw. And he probably puts Annie on a couple of high cards. He doesn't think that she has the high pair she has.
Daniel, is this a bad time to ask you for that autograph?
Yes. Annie Duke will fold. Daniel Negreanu pushes Annie Duke out of the way.
Trying to mess me up.
Yeah, Fossil Man playfully asking for the autograph. It was an inappropriate time to do it because Daniel's in the middle of a hand and his opponent's trying to figure out how to tell.
Might have been close, but I think it was a good laydown, Annie.
It was a weird hand. There were a lot of hands that you could be a favorite
I'm
against
100%
me.
sure I had the best hand, but you must have had a lot of outs. You could have, anyway.
There were a lot of hands that could be a favorite against me, even if I had the best hand. That was the problem.
Well, Annie was right to fear Daniel's hand. Daniel, though, said he was 100% sure he had the best hand. He was wrong.
We continue now at this table of champions. Daniel Negreanu takes a short break. I assume he will fold. Over to Howard Lederer with an ace-king unsuited. Will he play?
Boy, someone must have tapped him on the shoulder, but ace-king will get you into the hand.
18,000 chips from Howard. Phil Ivey folds for himself and for the vacationing Daniel Negreanu.
I'll raise it.
To Chip Reese with a couple of jacks. Will raise all in.
94,000 chips.
Action over to Johnny Chan. Last player to win back-to-back world championships. He's got 2 queens in the pocket.
Bad news for Chip Reese.
And Johnny Chan will call. Lucky orange and all.
I made this decision pretty easy.
Well, with the ace-king, Howard gets out of the way.
As usual, he is correct.
So we'll have Reese and Chan going to the flop. With Johnny Chan, a big favorite, 9, ace, 7. Howard would have had the 2 aces.
Chip Reese running into terrible luck. First he had kings and ran into Hellmuth's aces. Now with jacks, he runs into Chan's queens.
The 4 of clubs does not help Chip Reese.
And Chip Reese now facing elimination. He will be the first one going home if he does not get a jack on the river.
And the river card is a 2. Johnny Chan wins the hand. Chip Reese is the first player eliminated from this tournament of champions. Howard would have won the hand with a pair of aces. Johnny Chan ended up winning it. And right now, Chip Reese is down with Norm.
Most people in this room consider you the best player in the world. But when you sit down in a tournament with these people, it is the luck of the draw.
Well, it is, but they're all very good players. I mean, you know, to say who's the best player on a given day, or it takes a lot of time to say who the best player is. It shows up over time. And I wasn't the best player today. That's what mattered.
Would you score one for the tournament players today against a cash specialist like yourself?
Well, we'll see who winds up with the money.
All right, thanks a lot, Chip.
Okay, thank you.
1 champion down, 9 remain. They're playing for $2 million, winner take all, in the World Series of Poker Tournament of Champions. $2 million, winner take all, up for grabs in this World Series of Poker Tournament of Champions. 9 players remain. Annie Duke is a great champion of the theory that women are on equal footing with men in the game of poker.
Law and I have worked with women, slept with them. Heck, I've even married them. No reason women can't play poker as well as men. Especially when they get queens. Geez, she's all in.
Annie Duke down to her last 48,000 chips. All in with a pair of queens over to Johnny Chan, 2 8s.
And Johnny will call Annie's all in. Annie's been short stacked most of the day. In good shape here with a pair of queens.
Around the corner now. Folding over to Howard Lederer. And he gives it up. So Annie Duke and Johnny Chan to the flop. Annie in control.
I got a queen 8.
Really?
Something like that. I know I had something in there.
You have 10-9.
I had 10-9. You're right. I had 10-9. I had queen 8 last time.
This guy looks in the corner.
I knew you couldn't trust Doyle. He's stealing a peek at his neighbor's cards.
All right, here comes the flop. It is 9, king, jack. Annie got a straight draw along with her queens.
Yeah, her queens puts her in command of this hand. She needs to avoid an 8.
It's a 5 on the turn.
And Johnny Chan can knock out Annie now with an 8 and an 8 only.
To the river card, another 5, and Annie Duke down to her last 48,000 chips, doubles up on Johnny Chan and takes that hand.
How do you know I had the 10-9?
I saw it.
The look of a well-heeled cat burglar.
You just had enough for me to call you. You got 60, I'll probably fold it.
That's what I figured. That's why I moved in. If I had more, I would have just raised and hoped someone came after me.
Well, Annie's happy she got some of her chips back. She's got a long road ahead if she hopes to survive, but she's prepared.
Hey, did you see my tattoo? I think that most people would think, oh, you're playing poker, you're sitting in a chair. How hard could it be? Nice job. I don't think they realize how physically tiring it is. When I do Pilates, it's like sort of meditation time for me. It's time away, and I can sit down and just sort of work out and feel good about myself.
You know, I actually think that staying in good physical shape is really important. That hurts. I think it really helps my game, and it helps my discipline, and it helps me keep on a good schedule. When you move the bed, you're moving your body weight, but you're also putting springs all along here that have different resistance. It makes it really hard to move the bed. Everybody knows there's a connection between how mentally sharp you are and how physically sharp you are, and if you're getting tired, you know, that's going to affect your game. It's going to affect how you are mentally. You know, and then the other thing for me, of course, is when you have 4 kids, it's hard to, you know, not weigh 400 pounds, so. I love it. I'd recommend it to anybody.
There's no crying in baseball, and there should be no Pilates anywhere near poker. Just ask anybody at this table other than Annie.
I don't think we're at risk at seeing them in leotards anytime soon. The blinds now at this table, 5,000 and 10,000 with a 1,000 chip ante from each player. TJ will fold over to Phil Hellmuth. He's looking at a king and a 5 unsuited. Is he posing?
He poses and bets.
And
he
bets.
Calls the big blind.
10,000.
Doyle in the small blind.
And he will call with a 10 and 9 suited in spades over to Howard Lederer.
Howard can play for free if he wants in the big blind, and he will.
So Phil has the lead going to the flop. It comes out 7-5-3. Phil with a pair of 5s. He still has the lead.
Lederer does pick up an inside straight draw.
Howard Lederer has had a tremendous year. He had 4 final tables at the World Series of Poker, 2 wins coming into the World Series.
Well, he's bet 15,000. He wanted to see everyone go away, but Phil has called his bet.
Doyle Brunson will not play. So to the turn will be Howard and Phil Hellmuth. And here's the turn card. Howard makes the straight with the 6.
Bingo. He was bluffing before this, and now it's a question of whether he wants to check and let Phil Hellmuth take a shot at it, or whether he wants to bet right now. He cannot lose the hand, Howard, as long as he stays in it, and he's going to bet 20,000.
And Phil Hellmuth with a quick call. Digging himself a hole. And now the river card is a 2. Phil was drawing dead. Howard will come back out. Now 50,000.
Uh-oh.
Something's up.
It's like a time bomb ticking. Sooner or later, it explodes.
Phil's wondering what the heck on that board is helping Howard.
I mean, this is amazing. The same thing that happens with the amateurs. They bet out, and then they hit 6s in the belly.
That's the professor, Phil.
It's the same frickin' thing.
I mean, I know he's not as good as me.
3 months later.
But, you know.
Howard covers his face, and the other players take their shots at Phil.
Phil folds. Howard takes the pot.
Show him a bluff, bub. Come on, please. Please.
So Howard gets lucky, and, well, Phil gets bothered.
Uh-oh.
Why do I play hands like that?
Uh-oh.
I just hope one time they don't hit the 6.
Lights, camera, action.
I just hope one freaking time they don't hit the freaking belly buster on me. Dang it. I want to see that one on camera later.
Don't worry, Phil. They'll definitely show that hand.
Howard tormenting Phil further, implying he might have been bluffing.
He said, don't worry, Phil.
Don't worry, they'll
definitely
definitely
show
show
that
that
one on TV. That's genius, Bub. Bub's a genius. He's a comic genius.
Everybody's a genius.
Well, Bub's a genius for sure. He's the professor.
Class dismissed. Welcome back to the Rio Hotel and Casino for the World Series of Poker Tournament of Champions as we watch this murderer's row of poker players playing for $2 million. Johnny Chan with a couple of 9s in the hole, and he will bet 25,000 chips.
TJ's been mumbling most of the day. He's last in chips. He's got no cards.
No mumbling from Phil Hellmuth. Got 2 queens. Blinds are at 5,000 and 10,000 now. And Phil will just call with his queens. Doyle gets out. Howard Lederer will fold. Over to Greg Raymer, the 2004 World Series of Poker main event champion.
Give the king jack to Phil Ivey. Maybe he'll play. Come on, Phil, play a hand.
Daniel Negreanu with a 7-6 suited in clubs will play.
He likes those cute cards, likes to see flops for cheap, and he'll see one cheap.
Phil in the lead going to the flop. 2 aces and a 7.
20,000.
Phil still in control of his hand with the queens.
Johnny Chan, though, bets his pocket 9s.
I call.
Hellmuth calls at 20,000. Daniel immediately gets out, so it'll be Johnny and Phil going to the turn. It's a queen, big for Phil. He can only lose his hand if he folds.
Queen's full for Phil Hellmuth. Johnny Chan first to act. He will check. And Phil checks behind him, hoping maybe Johnny makes a hand on the river and he can get some money out of him.
It's a jack on the river. Johnny Chan and his lucky orange are going to lose this hand.
Well, he'll be lucky not to lose any more chips.
60,000.
Phil's going to try to get some more out of Johnny Chan, but Johnny folds. Phil wins the hand. It was an 89 when these two hooked up, and Phil became the youngest world champion ever. Phil was at a final table this year when Gavin Griffin stole the show.
The World Series of Poker. Memorable moment number 8.
Young Gavin Griffin had a chance to make poker history.
At 22 years, 8 months, I was playing solitaire, and I was losing.
On a quest to become the youngest player ever to win a bracelet, he took down the youngest man ever to win the main event.
Phil Hellmuth knocked out by Gavin Griffin.
Griffin continued his march into the poker record books. Gavin Griffin, 1 card from becoming the youngest champion in history. And now the river card. It's a jack, and Gavin Griffin does it.
You realize you're going to have to show a driver's license and a second form of identification before they give you this money.
I have a driver's license, but we'll see about the rest.
The Young Guns ruled at this year's World Series.
We saw a lot of TV-induced celebrations this year, but Gavin Griffin did not incorporate any of that cheap behavior into his day.
Daniel Negreanu with 7-5 suited in hearts.
Those were Phil Ivey's cards. He might play them.
Raise.
He raises to 28,000. Annie Duke with a couple of kings. And he's going to push them all in one more time. 70,000 chips.
How much? I got a Gus hand.
Meeting Gus Hansen, who often plays these funky hands and wins with them.
Why couldn't somebody else re-raise me?
If it was somebody else, he might not call, but when it's someone who's all in with few chips, that increases the chances he will call.
Suited.
No, he's already in for 28,000. It's just another 42,000 to call the all in and maybe knock somebody out.
And no autograph requests from Raymer yet.
He lives and learns.
Here. I got the 7 high. Okay, I was hoping she had ace king or something.
And nope, it's king for Annie Duke.
She doesn't seem thrilled that she was called by the 7-5.
Doesn't look like the flop I needed.
Well, no help for Daniel with a 4-10 jack on the flop. Now the turn card's an 8. Daniel with a ray of hope and a straight draw.
6 or a 9.
Daniel with the play-by-play. Annie with some bad luck could be eliminated.
2 of diamonds.
Blank.
That is a blank, Daniel. You lose. Annie Duke survives the all-in and doubles up through Daniel Negreanu.
I'm not very good at the psychic stuff because I thought a train wreck was coming there.
I have to say that Daniel hits those kinds of hands more often than any living human being. So when he turned over 7-5 of hearts and I couldn't remember what my red king was.
Right, you didn't look happy.
No, I couldn't remember what my red king was. So I'm thinking, well, I might have the king of hearts because I have a red king in this. And then when I didn't have the king of hearts, I was like, oh,
I'm dead.
I'm dead.
Annie feeling a lot more alive with chips in front of her. Back at the Rio, 9 players still remain in this World Series of Poker Tournament of Champions.
Greg Raymer just won $5 million, and last night he was playing 2-4 Hold'em with his wife at a neighboring card room.
Was he winning? Was he chip leader?
He couldn't muscle around people with 2-4.
Phil Ivey's going to come in with an ace-10 suited in clubs.
Come on, Phil. You know I'm rooting for you each and every time.
Phil has 4 World Series bracelets, 3 of them won in a single year, 2002. Over to Phil Hellmuth.
The other Phil.
King 4, suited in hearts.
Get out.
What do you have left, Phil?
I'm actually surprised he went out.
He's got King 4 suited. It's nothing. Why is he making him count it up? He's making him count it up and he's going to get out. You know it, I know it, they all know it.
115 more?
Phil Hellmuth has 9 bracelets, all but 1 he won in odd-numbered years.
That is the most ridiculous fact I have heard in the English language this century.
But true.
My first instinct says I'm supposed to move in here.
But he doesn't.
You're just playing for camera time, Phil. It's got to be. You just can't have a decision every hand. You're just too good of a player to have a tough decision every hand. It's just impossible.
Maybe he's not as good as you think he is, though.
Yeah, he's as good as I think he is.
How slow have I played, Doyle? Really?
You are. Ask anybody, Phil. Ask anybody. I'm not kidding.
All right, I asked somebody else.
All right.
How slow have I been?
Does anybody
Tell
agree
me.
with me or not?
He's always a little on the slow side. I wouldn't say
Are you
horribly
talking
slow,
mentally or in terms of his speed of
No,
play?
I don't think that.
Well, Phil is never short of opinions, and opinions of Phil Hellmuth are never hard to come by.
What the heck is going on here? Are you trying to lose or trying to win?
Phil really puts, that fear into some of the novice players.
No professional would raise me there, but any amateur would.
Phil Hellmuth is Phil Hellmuth.
But now I smell weakness.
If anybody was as good as Phil thinks he is, nobody in the world could ever beat him.
Davey, you and I are going to play some pots, so I can promise you that.
Do you want me to say what Phil thinks of himself or what I think of him?
Yes, baby, a pot! I just cannot play. I cannot play any better than I played.
I don't think that he is going to be able to get away with a lot of the stuff he gets away with at a table that has more amateurs at it than pros.
All right, buddy. We're going to have action this hand. I have to decide how to play this.
He's not going to do that to Doyle Brunson, and Doyle, no, Doyle's not going to go, oh, Phil.
Nice hand, buddy.
He won't intimidate anybody at this table.
Phil Hellmuth is a one-man brat pack, Lon. They love picking on him.
The blinds at this table now 6,000 and 12,000. Daniel Negreanu will not play. Annie Duke folds, so does Johnny Chan. Now over to TJ Cloutier in the hole. He's got an ace-6. That ace is a welcome sight. He's not gotten a lot of cards today. He'll bet 50,000.
Want you to notice something, Lon? Doyle Brunson's wearing the white hat. Phil Hellmuth's wearing the black hat.
And they both fold. As will Professor Howard Lederer. Over to Greg Raymer.
Clubs.
He's checking the short stack of TJ Cloutier. And Raymer raises enough to put TJ all in.
Re-raise. I finally found an ace I'm playing.
I don't blame TJ. He hasn't seen anything today. Another 39,000, and he'll take his chances with a raw ace-6.
I had a 6.
Steve, thanks. I needed to hear that, Joe.
I'm sorry, D.
Well, one of his chances is gone. There's the flop. It's king 7 ace.
He's in much better shape to stay alive. Remember, TJ's all in. He takes the lead with the aces.
And the turn card now is another 5. Raymer wins the hand with a set of 5s, eliminates TJ Cloutier.
All right, guys. Good luck, everybody.
TJ, we hardly knew ye. He'll join Chip Reese on the craps table.
Greg Raymer won a spectacular main event this year. In 2005, it's going to get even better with a change in venue. We're going to the Rio.
The World Series here at the Rio, I'm looking forward to it.
The World Series of Poker on the Strip, awesome.
Oh, I think it's going to be fabulous.
This is one of my favorite hotels. It's really classy. The number of players is going to be ridiculous. I mean, it's going to be like a sea of people.
I think next year it's going to be probably about 3,500 players.
5,000 players.
6,000 players.
10,000.
Like last year, my first table, I didn't recognize anybody. I think next year, I'm not going to recognize anybody in, my room.
All that I'll say is that it's going to be very difficult for you to ever see a pro win that event again.
I think people's finding out what I've known for 50 years, that poker's the greatest game on earth.
This is the greatest tournament in the world!
8 players remain. 2 of the greatest in the game have already been eliminated. The rest have their eyes on the prize.
$2 million with nothing for second? Talk about pressure.
And this is the first time that they ever did anything like this for poker.
It means a lot. The $2 million, I'm ready to go.
It's just a burning ambition to make money.
When I play these things, I try not to think about how much money is at stake.
Well, what's going to happen is just going to happen. Every player is capable of winning.
I'm really excited to get the opportunity to play for this kind of money.
There is the $2 million winner-take-all first prize. Action just now getting back underway.
Welcome back, everybody. Lon McCarron along with Norman Chad. Well, what began as a who's who of poker has been whittled down to a who's left. Well, who's left, of course, still some of the biggest names in the game, and we've got some very intriguing matchups, Norm.
Well, Phil Hellmuth against anyone would be an intriguing matchup, Lon, so as long as he's around, I'm not going anywhere. Heck, Hellmuth against a fire hydrant would be good TV. And we have a sibling rivalry, which is quite compelling. Howard Lederer and Annie Duke have a great brother-sister bond, and Howard taught Annie how to play poker. But with $2 million on the line, polite family consideration will give way to killer poker instinct. Neither one will hesitate to knock out the other.
Annie Duke is the short stack of this table. Her brother Howard is third. Johnny Chan is second. And the main event winner, Greg Raymer, is the surprising chip leader.
Did you have a regular job before you got into poker, Howard?
My last real job, where they paid me minimum wage, was Kentucky Fried Chicken.
I mean, I could easily see you, being, having an MBA and doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's my bub.
I could see you doing that pretty well. Not that I know that you'd, not that I'm saying you would want to do it, but.
You should have been an actuary.
Doyle knows of what he speaks. His only regular job was right out of college, selling bookkeeping equipment that lasted 2 weeks. Figured out he could make a lot more playing poker. Phil Ivey with an ace-9 unsuited.
And he figured out very early also he could make a lot more playing poker. He has become one of the most ferocious and feared cash game players anywhere.
Over to Annie Duke with an ace-7 offsuit. She will give it up.
Annie unable to get anything going during this tournament. She has been on the short stack much of the time.
Howard Lederer with a couple of kings.
I'm all in.
He is going to make a big move here. Now to Greg Raymer looking at king-queen offsuit.
Those are good-looking cards, Lon. Fossil Man, though, would have to put in more than half his chips. He looks over to the right, and he sees the professor. And over to the left, that's Phil Ivey. He's caught between a rock and a hard place, and he doesn't want to gamble here. And now Phil Ivey, with his ace-9, that kind of shrinks. That would be almost all of his chips, and he's going to go.
And so Howard Lederer, who has not played many hands to this point, king-king got him involved, and he neutralized Phil Ivey. And Howard Lederer adds to his growing chip stack. Phil Ivey is considered to be very dangerous at the poker table, and as we've seen, the same could be said when he's on the golf course.
Phil, where's that? Straight? In the woods, in the rocks.
Howard dragged me out there to play. He said, you got to come and play. I said, man, I don't really want to play. I said, I can't even hit the ball. It was the second time I ever picked up a club, and I had a good time.
I mean, you keep doing this to me every time.
Well, you curved around.
I did not curve around.
Well, he was 1 in the rocks, then he was 3 in the bush, then he was 5 in the bunker, then he was 6 in the rough, then he was 7 in the bunker, then he was 8 out of the bunker. Now he's 9 on the green. It's pretty sweet.
I'm the worst.
The problem was I had the the problem was I couldn't play. I'm practicing, I'm gonna get better.
Oh, wow. Oh, look at that.
It's a miracle.
I don't know. Poker's better.
The best way to learn how to play poker is you gotta put in the time, you have to play, and you get better. Every time I play poker, I make mistakes. I never play perfect. It's all about, you see certain situations come up and you just, you learn from it. And that's the way you get better at poker.
I can see you getting better. Yeah. That's cute.
Well, I hope Phil uses some of his cash game earnings to get himself a nice golf pro, get himself some good golf lessons.
You should take those cash game earnings and go straight to the 19th hole, it seems to me.
Daniel Negreanu with a 7-6 suited in diamonds. He will call the big blind of 12,000 chips. Blinds at 6 and 12,000. A 2,000 chip ante from each player. Action over to Howard Lederer. King Jack of clubs.
Howard not with much early in this tournament champions, but he's getting active as of late.
Greg Raymer, the 2004 World Series of Poker main event champion, will call also with the Jack-5.
He's calling from the small blind, so he got a discount to come into the hand, and now Phil Ivey can check the big blind and play the hand for free.
So 4 to the flop, Lederer in the lead, and 3 clubs. Howard Lederer flops a king-high flush.
And everybody got a piece of it. Ivey has a straight flush draw, Raymer with a pair of 5s, and Daniel with top 2 pair.
Raymer and Ivey check to Daniel Negreanu. And with 2 pair, 6s and 7s, he'll bet 100,000.
You hear that noise, Lon? If poker players didn't have chips to riffle, they'd probably just scratch themselves.
Should always give them some chips. And Howard Lederer with his flush will raise to 200,000. Greg Raymer says no thanks.
Straight flush draw for Phil Ivey. Oh, come on, Phil, play ball. He's right to get rid of it, but I would have stayed in, of course.
Daniel Negreanu now with his 2 pair, 6s and 7s. Has a decision to make, to call the 100,000.
Give me a minute here.
Raise it, get out of the way. I'm sure he'll tell us what he's thinking.
Well, he knows Howard Lederer pretty well, as he knows most of his players at the table pretty well. And he's going through his memory bank as to what it's likely that Howard is betting right now.
You have a set that could be really bad for me.
A set indeed makes him a big underdog. He doesn't want Howard to have a flush. He doesn't want Howard to have a straight. Howard, though, might just have a couple of high cards. He might have an overpair.
Ah, sorry, guys. I don't know what to do. I think I'm beat.
The bad news is we may be here for a while. The good news is I don't think this casino closes.
Could you have that hand? Nope. You hear that? Yep.
Daniel essentially would have to commit the rest of his chips to call this, so obviously a big decision. Most players, when they hold their cards up like that, they ain't gonna play.
Daniel's been known to take a U-turn once in a while. He does not want to give up these 2 pair. But he does, and rightly so.
Yeah, good read by Daniel as usual.
Negreanu took the brunt of that blow. Lederer in perfect position with the flush to take almost half of Daniel's chips.
Either gonna look really, really bad or really, really good.
You're a genius or a donkey, huh?
Yeah.
Daniel Negreanu has rarely played the role of a donkey, and he lives here to play another hand. There is the first prize money. It is the only prize money here at this World Series of Poker Tournament of Champions. Daniel Negreanu had a very successful month at the World Series, capturing the All-Round Player Award, a prestigious title that came with a trophy on wheels.
This is my trophy. I wouldn't trade this car in for any car. It represents a month of hard work. Yes! Finally! I got faith. That's all you need. I drive this car around to all the other people who came 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, just sort of go. I get little giggles inside. Sometimes I smile inside. I'm driving down the road and realize what I'm in and I actually won the thing. It's a really smooth ride. You don't feel like you're driving a truck. I mean, you name it, it's totally souped up. I've got a bed liner getting put in, the DVD player. You can hook up that new video game thing. I got my friends playing video games back there. I got a trophy for free. I'm gonna soup it up with everything I can. The first thing I check is WSOP 04 available, and they're like, yes, sweet. Every time I get out of the car and see WSOP 04, it's like, yep, good job, kid, good job. My turn. I also put in an order for WSOP 05, because I got plans for next year, too.
I would never bet against Daniel in winning that Player of the Year award once again, but there are some players at this table who would have something to say about that.
Phil Hellmuth already doing daily meditation to prepare for next year's World Series.
Ace-8 suited. And he will raise $35,000. Table folds over to World Series main event champion Greg Raymer. King-Queen offsuit. And the big stack. Oh, and he uses it. He raises to 100.
Re-raise, so 100,000.
That doesn't sit well with Phil.
Geez, Phil, it's only a raise, not a subpoena. Well, Phil's got the better hand.
I mean, can this really be happening?
But Fossil Man's made the bigger bet.
I'm playing the exact style I want. Every time I pick up a little ace-jack suited, someone's over the top. What a joke.
Lon, doesn't a jack have a picture of someone on the
What
card?
I was wondering.
What the hell are you gonna do, man? I mean, just take your dry spell. Take your dry spell like a man, Phil.
Well, wouldn't a man take his dry spell maybe in a less theatrical manner?
What is going on here?
Greg Raymer doing exactly what he did in the main event with his big stack, using it to push out the smaller stacks. With everything he brings to the table, nobody pushes Doyle Brunson around. He's got a king-queen.
Come on.
And he will commit the rest of his chips with those two cards. Action to Greg Raymer.
Too much for me.
I know that much.
That's about 150,000 chips from Doyle Brunson.
Doyle, you're looking...
Looking good?
Looking good.
Pocket sixes for Hellmuth.
$150.
I'll tell you, I pick up a lot of hands in the blinds, buddy.
I'm pulling for you.
Want me to call you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not sure anyone's pulling for Phil. Well, except maybe his mom.
I mean, you know, those medium pairs every hand, I have those in the blinds. But I can't ever get into the pot.
I had a couple overlays. That'd been good enough for me.
Doyle Brunson usually knows when and how hard to push. After all, he's been doing this a long, long time.
I started playing in college when I was about 21 years old. Was kind of just having a good time, and then I came down with what they thought was terminal cancer. When I got over that, I decided that life was so short, you got to do what you want to do. And that's when I decided I was going to play poker the rest of my life. We started out in Texas and then Louisiana and Oklahoma. You know, back then there was all the hazards. We got arrested a lot because it was illegal. We had a lot of hijackings because, you know, they always try to come take your money away from you. We played in games, they had guys with machine guns on top of the building to protect us. We all had to carry guns and shotguns. I mean, it's something like the Old West, you know. This is my office where I do my writing, and these are the computers. I play online poker here, and you know, just channel surf, and they got my TVs, I watch the ball games. It's kind of where I relax. I was an athlete as a young man, and I love competing, so I don't know any place else that a 71-year-old guy can go and compete with the young kids, but you can at the poker table.
The old man takes the young gun to school.
I think I'm a dinosaur.
Doyle's just a living legend.
He's at the top of his game at 71. It's astounding.
Doyle Brunson, you know, Doyle Brunson.
You know, most poker players kind of fade away when they get to be 50 years old because you lose your mental acuity. You have to be sharp to play at the level that I've been playing at. And I think probably that I play as good today as I ever did, maybe better.
Lon, it's the Doyle Brunson Show.
Couldn't be any better life than a poker player's life. Poker's made me. It's made me what I am today.
Doyle likes to say every day above ground is a good day. Look at him. He knows what he's talking about.
Action continues, $2 million, winner take all. And Phil Ivey pushes all in with his ace-8 unsuited.
We haven't heard much from him, but he'll go all in right now. But behind him, ace-queen suited, and Annie Duke will go all in. She has Phil Ivey covered.
Now over to Doyle Brunson with two players all in front of him, and he'll fold his pair of sixes. Now Howard Letter with two kings.
I call.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
That's
my God.
bad.
You called fast.
Yes, he did.
2 kings.
You talk about that killer poker instinct between siblings.
Well, Howard Letter has them both covered, so he can knock out 2 players at once, including his little sister, and he's in a commanding position to do it.
So 2 players, Annie Duke and Phil Ivey, their tournament at risk going to the flop. It comes 7-8-6, and Phil Ivey pairs his 8s. Annie Duke has a flush draw.
Letterer's kings still are best, and Ivey is in imminent danger of going home.
Now to the turn card. It's a 6 of spades, and Annie grabs the lead with her flush.
Oh, she was nearly out of here, but now she's taking the lead from her brother. Doyle Brunson would have made quad 6s if he was playing. And now if Howard Lederer gets a king on the river, he makes a full house and knocks out both his sister and Phil Ivey. Phil Ivey needs an 8 to stay alive.
It's a 5 of spades, and what a hand for Annie Duke. Tripling up on her brother and Phil Ivey and giving Ivey the heave-ho in the process. And like T.J. Cloutier before him, Phil Ivey just did not get the hands to play at this table. He'll go away in 8th place.
I mean, I was pretty sure I would set him crushed. That made me really unhappy.
Well, and it was an unhappy moment until you hit the turn.
Well, I mean, I guess if I'm going to lose all my chips, you know, I'm rooting for my brother.
I don't blame you there.
I just thought of something. I made 4 6s.
Oh, did you really?
Boy, I noticed that before Doyle did. I got to write down the time and date this happened.
There's a $2 million first prize. Greg Raymer currently is our chip leader. Annie Duke, who has been on the verge of elimination a few times today, sits nicely in the middle of the pack.
Well, my plan to be a luck box is starting to work out. Because that's really my whole strategy with this group. Because I know I ain't the best player, so I'm hoping to be the luckiest. And I'm now executing my plans.
Greg Raymer had his share of luck en route to winning the main event, but at the World Series, a lot of other people were not so lucky.
The World Series of Poker. Memorable moment number 7.
As he stood on the brink of victory, good guy Joe Iwata found himself on the wrong end of the baddest beat at the 2004 World Series.
I call it. Iwata, a 4-1 favorite to take home this title right now.
Joe Iwata, 1 card away from winning his first World Series bracelet. Here comes the river card. Joe Iwata cannot believe what he has witnessed.
That is just unbelievable, Lon. This thing was over.
Phil Hellmuth has taken a bad beat, I think, once or twice.
And if he'd taken the one we just saw, he'd still be talking about it.
Daniel Negreanu, 30 years old, lives in Las Vegas, born in Toronto, Canada. Couple of 5s. And he'll open the betting with 36,000 chips to Annie Duke, who has some fresh chips to play with if she wants to. Couple of 10s.
How much do you have left, Daniel?
About 100. 99.
Not comforting when somebody asks you
Okay, I'll make it 135.
how many chips you have.
Yeah, and she puts in the exact amount that Daniel has.
So 5s for Daniel, 10s for Annie Duke. Howard Lederer folds over to Greg Raymer. Greg's got kings. Norm, did you get a pair?
I haven't had a pair since senior prom.
And Raymer with 447,000 chips goes all in.
Daniel gets rid of his cards. They're not mine. Oh, Fossil Man a little late putting his glasses on. That's a glitch. Oh, and then she's knocking her chips over. That's a glitch too. Are these professionals? Yeah, she's in a tough spot now. It's for all her chips, Lon. She's got a good hand, and the only type of hand she can worry about, Raymer has, but she can't know it. A pair that's larger than her 10s.
Annie's brother, Howard, looking on, an interested observer. His sister has a very difficult decision right now, but she lays it down.
I thought for sure you'd ask me for my autograph.
No autographs this time around. We're done with autographs at the table. Greg Raymer, once again, using his chip stack to muscle out another player.
And he's a little down in the mouth, but she should be patting herself on the back for a good read. That was smart. She'd probably be gone if she called that.
Nonetheless, she hates to give away those chips she worked so hard to get. The blinds are at 8,000 and 16,000. 3,000 chips on the ante from each player. Action over to Doyle Brunson. And all we see is an ace from Doyle.
I'm all in.
Good enough, I guess.
Yeah, remember TJ went all in because he said, I'll just play the ace. Doyle doesn't even look at his other card this time.
So far, I'm in good shape.
How good?
Get another one like that, I'm coming. There was paint on it. Ooh, they're both paint.
You automatically called in.
Yep. And they're suited. Okay. At 99, I got queen high.
I personally have only looked at one.
I didn't think you needed a
Well,
big hand.
Daniel
I call you.
has fewer chips than Doyle, so Daniel will be all in here, and he's a slight underdog.
Shot here?
To stay alive.
Your hand the best, tell you the truth.
Be fun.
And now the flop, Negreanu and Brunson, a 2-pair for Doyle. How does he do it?
King now.
Ace is up.
King will still do it.
Daniel needs a king to make a straight.
The turn card now. 3 of hearts. No help.
That diamond.
Do it. That would have worked.
Daniel, 1 card from elimination. He needs the king to stay alive.
River card.
I'll take a king.
It's a jack.
Oh, I swear I thought that was a king.
And that closes out Daniel Negreanu.
You know, Lon, Doyle has a movie deal in the works, and he says he would love for Robert Duvall to play him in the film. And if Duvall's not available, Bruce Willis.
Well, this end of the table just keeps getting decimated.
Texas Dolly threw caution to the wind. He only looked at one of his hole cards, and then he flopped 2 pair to win the hand. He eliminated Daniel Negreanu in the process, and right now, Daniel is with Norm.
You were the best all-around player at this year's World Series. You've been one of the hottest players around. How disappointed did you feel tonight with how it went?
Well, I tell you what, I mean, really there's only one spot I wouldn't have been disappointed with, and that's first. So 2nd through 10th, I mean, that's all the same, and that was my strategy coming in. I don't care if I came 7th, 8th, 6th. If it ain't first, it ain't worth nothing.
The World Series of Poker. Memorable moment number 6.
You saw Scott Fishman snatch victory from the jaws of Joe Iwata. He went on to win that bracelet.
Scott Fishman has defeated Joe.
And in his very next tournament, he won another. An incredible back-to-back performance.
Everything's been just a dream come true for me so far. I can't believe it. Back-to-back.
Scott Fishman was knocked out of the main event by this man, Doyle Brunson. That did not diminish everything that Scott Fishman did at the World Series. What a tremendous month he had. 6 players remain here in the hunt for $2 million.
Winner take all?
Winner take all. You cannot just take it, though, and run. You got to win.
Maybe the winner will tip me.
Our chip leader, Greg Raymer, with a 9-8 suited, and he comes out with 45,000 chips. Action to Annie Duke. Also suited in hearts with an ace-4. And Annie once again forced to move all in as her chip stack dwindling.
You know how much more, please?
Fossil Man's got a so-so hand, but he's the chip leader. It wouldn't cost him that much of his stack to call this, and he'd have a chance to knock out another player.
40 more. I call.
So Fossil Man will make the call. Annie Duke's tournament life once again on the line. She's got the ace high. Here's the flop.
Ack.
Ack, I believe, is a Yiddish term.
Raymer with a club flush draw.
And a straight draw also. So Annie's still ahead, but Raymer with the better draw.
Now the turn card is another jack, and Annie has the advantage once again.
Annie has picked up a heart draw here. She's still got the high hand with an ace, but Raymer can still knock her out with a river club or a 10 if it's not a heart.
And the river card, it's a 6 of spades. No help for Greg Raymer. He loses that hand. Annie Duke lives to tell the tale yet again, doubles her modest stack.
Annie living dangerously, knows she's lucky to survive.
The flop was just, wow.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what order they come in, right?
It doesn't matter. Well, it kind of does in that situation, you know. Makes you a little sad momentarily.
Annie told me earlier it's critical for her to stay on an even keel throughout a tournament, and that hand really tested that theory. Very difficult to stay centered. Annie's big brother Howard Lederer had his own ups and downs during the World Series. He had a lot of cashes, but was unable to capture his 3rd bracelet.
I experienced more disappointment at this World Series of Poker than I've ever experienced. I've never been at 4 final tables before without winning one.
And that is it for Howard Lederer.
I would have taken 30 washouts and 1 win, for sure. It's all about wins.
Not going to do it for Howard.
And Howard looking back briefly at the wreckage.
The final event of the World Series of Poker this year.
Over to Howard Lederer, a pair of 7s.
I called sort of a normal raise.
These 2 respected giants of poker go head-to-head.
and the flop came 7 high.
And a set of 7s for Howard Lederer.
Normally in that position, I'm going to raise him, but he didn't give me a chance to raise him. He just moved me right in.
I'm all in.
I call.
I mean, he wanted me to fold. He only had king high. But if I do call, he knows he has a good chance to win.
It's a king. Brunson pairs up, and Lederer's 3 7s are still best.
If I win that hand, I've got 90 or 100,000, and I feel like I'm for sure going to cash, really go somewhere with it.
And here comes the river card. Oh, and it's a spade, and Howard Lederer's eliminated.
Brutal finish for Howard.
It probably is the most disappointed I've ever been after a poker tournament. That month, I had 7 in the money finishes and 4 final tables. Sort of the head part of me is saying you had a good World Series, and the heart part of me is feeling the pain of not winning an event this year.
Well, Howard Lederer does set very high standards for himself.
He does, Lon, and even after he takes a tough beat, as he did against Doyle Brunson to be knocked out of the main event, he always stays on an even keel, setting an example for his sister Annie.
His sister folds, her hand right there. Johnny Chan also folds. Phil Hellmuth, he folds actually rather quickly. You might recall earlier in the tournament, Doyle giving Phil grief about his slow play. Now to Doyle.
Yeah, I'm all in.
I don't think Doyle's even looked at his cards. He's the short stack of the table and looks like he wants to make a move.
I call.
Howard with an ace-queen suited will call.
I haven't even looked.
8-3.
Those are double down cards, not all in cards, Lon. I'm not sure what part of Doyle's Super System book explains the strategy of going all in without looking at your cards.
He does have close to the worst 2-hole cards you could have in Hold'em, but I've seen 8-3 come on the flop before. Not here, though.
No apes and no trays?
Nope, and that's what he's looking for. 8s or 3s somewhere along the line. Ace high for Howard is still best.
To the turn card, 2 of hearts, no help for Doyle Brunson.
And what did he get broke with? He got the 8-tray beat.
Doyle almost writing his own obituary. He will need an 8 or 3 on the river, or he is gone from the Tournament of Champions.
And the river card is a 9 of clubs, and that will give the hand to Howard Lederer. And Doyle Brunson is gone.
Scoot just a little dab of money over here, bub.
Nobody gets more respect than Texas Dolly. Nobody in poker world is more revered than this man.
Everybody.
And you can just feel the somberness in this room as Doyle Brunson gets knocked out. And even though Howard Lederer is our new chip leader, it's a bittersweet victory for him as he watches Doyle Brunson walk away from this table, and now he's over with Norm.
Doyle, now nothing short of winning this thing was going to make anybody happy here.
Yeah, that's true.
But how'd you feel playing against this group in a tournament setup?
You know, I'm used to playing against most of the people that are there, and I knew it was going to be a tough bunch to. It's a bunch of barracudas.
Phil Hellmuth plays a little slow for you?
Phil, I love Phil, but he is aggravating.
All right, well, thanks, lad. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you.
The odds are getting better. Only 5 players left in the hunt for $2 million. Welcome back to the Rio Hotel and Casino. Howard Lederer is our chip leader. His sister Annie Duke is the short stack now at the table. 5 players remain after the exit of Doyle Brunson.
3 main event winners and the best brother-sister poker playing combination in the history of civilization.
Johnny Chan with a pair of 6s. We have seen those 6s thrown away a couple of times today by Phil and Doyle. But Johnny wants to play him 50,000 chips. And now over to Phil Hellmuth with an ace and a queen, unsuited.
And Phil mucks it. He plays a tighter style than most of the other players here. We saw him earlier get rid of ace-8 suited, heads up. We saw him get rid of pocket 6s, heads up, and now ace-queen.
And now over to Howard Lederer, who has an ace-jack, which ranks certainly less than ace-queen, I think, that Phil threw away, and he looks like he's reaching for chips. It's a matter of how much at this point, it seems, with Howard Lederer. Johnny Chan is in the hand for 50,000 right now, and Howard's going to raise him to 165,000.
And you see 2 different styles of play here. Hellmuth very close to the vest. Lederer has been playing very aggressively when he comes into a hand here in the tournament.
And it's not a hard decision for Raymer and Duke to get out of the way. Now to Johnny Chan.
I keep tired laying down those hands. How much you raising? 15.
Yeah, Johnny's felt some frustration. Like TJ Cloutier and Phil Ivey, not a lot of hands to play.
Well, that could be dangerous, too. You've got to pick your spots.
He's got a playable hand.
All right, I'm going.
Johnny's going to risk it all with his 2 6s.
I call.
You got a pair?
No.
I do.
God dang it.
I wish you would have come.
I'm like ace queen.
I wish you would have come. I wish you would have come.
I wouldn't have played if you played. So how much more is that?
Let me see.
But he doesn't call me. He knows I have some.
Shh, I'll beat you to the pot. What's the difference between you and Howard?
Ace of spades, queen of diamonds.
Let's see, 111.
Okay.
All right, that's actually my favorite pair, 6.
And here comes the flop. 4, queen 2.
God dang it.
Phil kicking himself for mucking his queen.
I play too good for myself here.
I play too good for myself. I love this guy in my life.
Turn is a king, and it gives Howard some decent outs.
Lederer can knock Johnny Chan out now with an ace, jack, or a 10 on the river would give him a straight.
It's a 9, too small to help Howard. Johnny wins the hand.
Close. Close call.
Yep, it's just tired, just playing over and playing over.
Johnny could have been all out. Instead, he's now chip leader.
That is like such a bad beat for me. It's like scary.
Howard bemoaning the fact that if Phil had come in with his ace-queen, Howard wouldn't have played his ace-jack. Howard ends up losing half of his chips.
So you could play that bad to cost me that much money.
Deal me the ace queen. We'll see what happens with my chips.
Take ace king.
Okay. Genius.
Well, I came to win.
No, well, I just came to be on TV.
I just came to gamble. I didn't come to win.
I just felt like it was the right laydown. What the heck?
After beating Howard, Johnny Chan takes a whiff of his orange. This 2-time champ is no stranger to the sweet smell of success.
I love to play against the best player in the world. The better they play, actually improve my game, so I gotta go up another notch.
Now, Johnny Chan needs a 9 here to win. That would be a miracle. And 5th Street is coming. And it's a 9, and Johnny Chan has done it. And Johnny Chan is the new World Poker Champion.
I went back-to-back, 87, 88.
It's the 19th annual World Series of Poker.
Back in the 80s, you know, people smoke. The air was real bad, and I say, man, I can't breathe. So lunch break, I got an orange, I just kept it. And then I start peeling it and sniff it. I say, this is great, this is like fresh air, you know? So that was my trademark, the orange man.
Chan is trying to sucker him in. Oh, look at that look of the defending champ. Will Eric Seidel fall for the bait? Yes, he's going all in, and Chan has him. Once again, Johnny Chan has done it.
I don't think anybody ever gonna win back-to-back in a big tournament ever again.
Johnny Chan retains his title and wins $700,000.
So the orange must bring me some good luck.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. I believe that is the exact same orange he had in 1988.
Well, 89, Johnny was going for the three-peat, and it was this man, Phil, who stopped the Orient Express from winning 3 in a row.
I mean, you've learned your lesson now with the ace-queen, right?
I've learned my lesson. If I play it and he plays with me, I play a $600,000 crapshoot, right? There's a time, you know, I'll call with ace-queen. I'll call with ace-jack or ace-10 when the time's right. Just didn't think the time was right, that's all.
It kills me to say this, but in this disagreement, I think Phil's right.
I just need the best hand. It doesn't have to be that big.
Are those pigs flying over the strip right now? You're agreeing with Phil? No action, over to Phil Hellmuth. It's a Jack 2 of hearts.
He's in the small blind, and he calls the big blind. Howard in the big blind.
A suited ace 4.
I won't raise you every time you limp here.
Howard will check in the big blind, and so it'll be Phil and Howard to the flop. Pair of deuces for Phil.
Gut shot straight draw for Howard. They both check.
And the turn card now is another 5.
Let me take a little deeper look.
Still Jack deuce.
Yeah, that still looks raw.
35.
And Phil with a rather small bet of 35,000.
That might be enough to take it on down here. I had to figure whoever bets first takes this pot. Howard hasn't put any money in. He was in the big blind. I can't see him calling here.
I mean, this guy won't fold. This is unbelievable. He wants to beat me every pot here.
Well, maybe Howard, and he's reaching for chips. He is going to call. And maybe he's got to crawl up his backside about Phil right now, which would be rare for Howard Lederer. Very even-keeled.
So they're going to the river. It's no help for Howard.
Deuces.
Both players checked, and the deuces from Phil Hellmuth are good enough to take down the pot. Not a big pot for Phil, but maybe some psychological warfare going on. Chalk that one up for Hellmuth.
The World Series of Poker. Memorable moment number 5.
Anybody seen John Murphy?
That was the question during the main event when Mr. Murphy went missing.
I gave him a call and found out that he was sleeping.
He woke up and ended up 13th overall.
Memorable moment number 4.
But when it comes to a poker faux pas, nothing could top the master.
Nice hand, sir. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man.
People do complain about Phil's table etiquette. I don't think he's ever spit beer onto the felt, though.
Only because he doesn't drink.
Don't even think about limping in this time, Phil, if it's concerned to you.
What'd you say, Howard?
Nothing.
What'd you say? Don't even think about what?
Limping in. I was talking to Phil, in case it comes around.
Gotcha.
Now that I see that he'll limp with the jack deuce, then charge me.
Maybe he got under Howard's skin.
Yeah, I think this is still the residue of that ace-queen, ace-jack situation.
Latest in World Series where?
Well, that's the best World Series wear you'd want. The bracelet from his main event title.
And Raymer looking at king-queen unsuited. And he's back in action with 60,000 chips. Over to Phil, who gives it up. Howard Lederer next in line to act. We're 5-handed here. Couple of threes.
Pocket threes, and his chip stack dwindled after that big hit he took against Johnny Chan. He was our chip leader. He's down under 200,000 right now.
I'm all in.
Re-raise.
And with his threes, he's going to move all in.
60.
Howard was chided earlier on by his sister Annie Duke for not getting involved.
I call fold.
Now we can't keep him away from a hand.
No, he can't. And Fossil Man will call. First he tried to take the sister out, and now he's going to try to take the brother out.
So on the flop, it is 7, ace 6. Raymer finds nothing.
Howard, a 3-1 favorite, and he is all in for his tournament life.
And with a 10, Raymer has a little more hope.
Any pink, please.
If Raymer pairs the king or queen in his hand, or he gets a jack for a straight, he will knock out Lederer.
The river card is an 8. Not enough card for Greg Raymer, who loses the hand and gives about half of his chip stack over to Howard Lederer.
This was the exact situation in which Fossil Man was running good at the main event championship table. Heads up coin flips, but he doesn't run as lucky right here.
Oh, boy.
So a big hit for Greg Raymer as we continue 5-handed. You see how Annie's sitting? I was talking to her in the hotel lobby. After 2 minutes, she got into that position on the floor. She just has to be crouched to talk.
It's just instinctual.
Yeah. Johnny Chan with a couple of kings. And he comes out with 60,000.
Play for 60.
Over to Phil Hellmuth. 2 10s for Phil.
I'm all in.
Re-raise.
Whoa, 369,000 chips. All in for Phil.
I call.
And a call.
And Johnny's right there behind him.
Jesus Christ.
And Phil sees the bleak reality.
King is my favorite pair.
And Johnny really should like kings here. He's a 4-1 favorite to knock Phil Hellmuth out.
2 9-time bracelet winners to the flop. Nothing for Phil. Deuce, deuce, ace.
And the door closing now on Phil Hellmuth's Tournament of Champions.
Turn card. It's a jack of clubs.
And the door closes a bit further on Phil Hellmuth. And the 9-time bracelet winner, who's been a target of these other players for much of the day, now finds his Tournament of Champions down to 1 card. He only survives if he gets a 10.
And now the river card. Oh, the 10!
Yes!
Oh my God.
What a card! Wow.
What a turn of events.
Lucky card that was. Wow.
Chan would have been in a commanding position, and now Hellmuth is the chip leader.
What a time.
1 card from the exit door, and now the chip leader, Phil Hellmuth.
Sorry, Johnny.
Yeah, you put your money in there.
There's Phil winning with grace.
Johnny Chan is stricken.
I guess my television reputation is changing. I've seen all the bad beats. Now we see a few good beats.
Well, truth be told, Phil actually has many television reputations, and we sat him down to get Phil's opinion on Phil.
I've heard that people really like to watch me on TV, and, you know, and that's a compliment. And when I watch myself on TV, I'm a bit compelling, but some of that I'd just soon get rid of. My image as a player is poker brat. Buddy, have you won any hands in that seat yet? I misunderstand the game so badly. That's true. There's huge misunderstanding of how to play the game right. But even still, you know, I snap over the edge a little bit, and now I'm starting to get a reputation as a gentleman of poker. Freeze it. Okay, you nailed me there. I mean, I don't have the reputation as a gentleman of poker yet. That's away from the table. Continue.
And the man has decided to play poker. Phil Hellmuth is in the room.
But his usual late arrival.
Looking for the table he's supposed to be at.
Actually appears to be looking for people to acknowledge his presence in the room.
They have done that indeed. And
He's not very nice to me. I'm not looking for anyone to acknowledge my presence. I mean, come on. I will say this, though. When I do walk into the main event of the World Series of Poker, I do appreciate a few people noticing.
He'll be the first to say he's got the poker brat reputation. Well, he's trying to change that this year. We'll see how long that lasts.
Didn't last long.
Hellmuth with a very good chance to double up and get back in the mix here.
And here comes the turn card. It's
no.
a 9 of spades to
I can't take it. My eyes
Phil
are
now in a
closed
very
right
good
now.
position.
I feel like he's going to outdraw me
with a spade.
Not spade,
And the river
spade.
card comes. It is a spade.
Spade.
Phil Hellmuth picked
Spade,
up to runner
spade.
again.
All their money in the worst end every time.
Quit playing with your
I was going to self-destruct for all those chips. I knew he was going to suck out on me. Okay.
Phil's last book was called Play Poker Like the Pros. His next book should be called Cry Like a Baby.
All right, that was a good line. Give him credit for that. And he's right, too. Okay, I admit that. If there weren't luck involved, I guess I'd win every one.
If there weren't luck involved, I guess I'd win every one.
Why can't I just shut my mouth and say, nice hand, and congratulations, and move on? And you know, it's something that I have been working on. But you know, when you play at that high a level, you know, I mean, it seems to me like nothing's going to make me happy except winning. People will be people, and their characteristics will show, and their flaws will come out.
Phil Hellmuth continuing his introspection.
Including my flaw of whining a little too much.
This was the scene in New York just a few days ago. A group gathered along with Greg Raymer, where for the first time he saw himself win it all on television. Clearly it was an emotional moment for the new world champion. And the $2 million stack that would go to the winner of this World Series of Poker Tournament of Champions probably will look real nice next to the $5 million stack that Greg Raymer won at the main event and cap off what has been a remarkable poker journey for the Fossil Man. Raymer has the better full house. He can only lose if he folds.
All in.
And he's all
People
in.
were amazed. I mean, they kept telling me how unbelievable it was.
Raymer wins it all. Raymer has bested the biggest tournament field in poker history. He wins the $5 million.
I knew I had a legitimate shot at winning years ago when I first started playing in the World Series. You know, luck is always a big factor, but I would like being known as a good player who played well and deserved to win.
Congratulations on winning the World Series.
Hey, thank you.
Very nice, very good.
And I'm having a good time, but I'm very, very busy. I'm constantly traveling to various poker tournaments. It's been a rather different lifestyle than I'm used to. was fun to see my picture up on the wall with all the other winners. A lot of players have said, and there's a lot of truth to it, that, that's something that's going to be there forever, and that won't change. Even if it turns out you were a lucky fluke, you will still be the world champion that year, forever.
Raymer used to be a patent attorney, but since becoming world champion, he decided to leave his job, and he will try to ride the poker wave for as long as he can, for as much as he can.
With 9-8 unsuited, Raymer says that's good enough for 65,000 chips in the pot.
That's not a real good wave to ride.
The ace-10 of Annie Duke.
I'm all in.
Annie's going to push all in. She's got 137,000 chips, and one more time, she finds her way to the middle of the pot with all of them.
Yeah, she's wearing out the track there, going all in today.
Now Raymer needs to call or get out of the way.
I don't know what he's thinking about here. It's one thing when he called with 9-8 suited before when he was chip leader and it was a small cost, but he has a lot fewer chips and not as good of a hand.
I call.
Oh, the world champion is going to call.
Oh, and he gives the Ushka look to his cards when she sees them.
Swing number 2 is a 9-8.
Yeah.
He's gone after her twice with 9-8.
Fortunately,
It must be your favorite hand.
not really. It's just coincidence.
So Annie Duke is all in. Tournament life at stake again. Raymer pairs his 9.
Oh, I still like your chances pretty well.
I don't like her chances anymore. Annie Duke now needs an ace or a 10 coming up, else she's going to be out of this tournament.
So the turn card now. Oh, she got the ace!
Turnabout's fair play.
Maybe I'm psychic.
Yeah, I guess so.
At the wrong time.
Kind of weird.
Psychic at the wrong time.
Well, Annie deserved to get lucky
need
there,
2 outs.
and now Raymer can knock her out only on the river with a 9.
And now the river card. It's a 3. No good for Raymer.
7.
Raymer lost about half his stack to Annie's brother Howard Lederer a few hands ago, and now loses half of his dwindling stack to Annie Duke.
I was going to feel better. I wanted you to turn over like ace 4.
Well, calling that all in with the 9-8 offsuit line, that's a meltdown of sorts for Greg Raymer.
Yeah.
So Greg Raymer finding himself in more and more trouble here at this table at the Tournament of Champions. Annie Duke collecting a lot of Raymer's chips and suddenly looking a lot healthier than she had earlier. We've seen her go all in a number of times, but now she's looking real strong.
Throughout this year's main event, we saw Greg Raymer in the role of bully, playing the big stack. Now we'll see how he can play the short stack with a table of bullies around him.
So only Phil Hellmuth finds himself in a better chip position than Annie Duke, and Greg Raymer at 208,000 is now the short stack at this championship table. Johnny Chan folds with the blinds at 12 and 24,000 and 4,000 chip ante from each player. To Greg Raymer.
In the small blind.
10-9 offsuit.
All in.
Wow.
Push it all in, about 200,000 from Greg.
I don't know about that line.
I call.
And he's going to dance once more with Greg Raymer.
It's a real race again.
Boy, this is like a full meltdown now for Fossil Man.
I'm glad I have 2 overs. That's luckier than I expected. After you called so quickly.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't much of a decision.
With those cards, I don't know why Fossil Man just wouldn't sit back and wait for the next hand.
Raymer gets nothing on the flop. Annie's pocket 8s are still best. Now the turn card is a 7. Raymer with a straight draw.
So now Fossil Man would need an 8 to make a straight, or a 10 or a 9 on the river, or this year's main event champion will be eliminated from the Tournament of Champions.
It is an ace. It's no help to Fossil Man, and he goes down.
You played really well.
I got to learn to win some races, though.
It was very nice to meet you, too.
He won most of these races to take home the main event title, but a couple of questionable plays undid him here tonight.
Yeah, we'll play against the family, Phil. You're not against the family.
So it's the 2 former world champions and the 2 siblings in our final 4 at this Tournament of Champions. As for Greg Raymer, he wanted to prove he belonged here with the champions, and he did just that. He hung in there, and now he's with Norm.
You are the most inexperienced and the new boy on the block, so it seems like they were showing you some respect.
Yeah, maybe they just assumed I played real tight or that I would play extra tight because of the type of competition I was facing. I'm not sure. To me, it didn't feel like I was getting any more or less respect than anyone else at the table.
Oh, thanks for giving us a good show.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Good luck, guys.
I wish I'd given you the $2 million show.
If it ain't first, it ain't worth nothing.
6 of the game's greatest players have left the table empty-handed. proving just how hard it's going to be to win this championship.
This end of the table just keeps getting decimated. I'm one of the most competitive people you'll ever meet. My brother is too.
I've been working very hard on my poker instincts, and I think it's improved my game.
I got a lot of skill. I'm one of the best players in the world.
When I found out they were going to go with the top players in the world, I assumed that I'd be one of them.
We're down to the final four. $2 million, winner take all. No consolation prizes here. Johnny Chan, the short stack at the table, $245,000. Howard Lederer with $440,000. Phil Hellmuth is in second place with $635,000. And that leaves Annie Duke as our chip leader with 680,000 chips.
And a great recovery for Annie. On the ropes most of the day, all in 4 times, and now she's on top.
Annie folds her 8-5 offsuit over to Johnny Chan with a Queen-Jack offsuit.
I'm all in.
And Johnny's going to push everything he has left into the pot. Next to act, Phil Hellmuth. Couple of sixes.
We saw Hellmuth fold 6s early in the day against Doyle. We saw Doyle fold 6s, but at a short table.
I call.
They look a lot better, and Phil Hellmuth will call Johnny Chan's all in.
So these two will tangle once again. Howard Lederer now decides if he wants to join the party. King 3.
Yeah, I thought this was an ace-king for a second when I squeezed it in.
Well, Phil Hellmuth's still only here because he got lucky against Johnny Chan.
Let me get lucky one time, Phil.
When Phil went all in with that miracle 10, and now Johnny hopes to come from behind to stay alive himself against Hellmuth.
Well, it's a coin flip going to the flop, and it comes out 7-9-4, 3 diamonds.
That's a killer.
Oh, it is a killer for Johnny. Even if he gets a queen or jack now, it can't be a diamond. So Johnny in imminent danger of going out of here.
Now the turn card. It is another diamond. Hellmuth gets his flush and wins the hand.
Hellmuth knocking out Johnny Chan in 4th place, but the real crushing blow was earlier when Johnny had the kings against Hellmuth's all-in 10s, and Hellmuth's 10 on the river prevented Johnny from becoming the commanding chip leader.
So one 9-time bracelet winner knocks out another, and we're down to just 3 players. 2 of them very familiar with each other. Howard Lederer and Annie Duke are used to competing against each other at any gaming table, as we found out when they renewed their childhood rivalry.
I was 11 and she was 9, so I did most of the winning. She did most of the throwing the board around the room. She's knocked me out 3 times at the World Series of Poker, and I've never knocked her out. She reminds me of that every day.
Did you catch me beating my brother a pot?
I actually find her very difficult to read. So probably of the other people at that table, I'm going to have the toughest time reading her. I mean, I'm going to still just have to play poker against her.
Part of being a professional poker player is not allowing your emotions to get into the way of how you play a hand. And my brother and I are professionals. And I can guarantee you that both of us are going to play exactly the way that we're supposed to play the hand.
It'd be very weird if it came down to the 2 of us for the $2 million.
Yeah, it'd be weird because, you know, he'd lose.
No Parcheesi, Norm.
Yeah, actually, she started playing poker when she was living in Billings, Montana. Howard sent her her first stake of $2,400, gave her a few lessons over the phone. She won $2,800 her first month, and now she's here.
And Brother Howard has an ace-7 unsuited, probably hoping all those lessons he gave Annie don't come back to haunt him right here with $2 million on the line. And he'll bet 80,000 chips.
Play for 80.
Over to his sister, Annie Duke. King, queen.
I'm all in.
All in. She's got 676,000 chips to put all in. Phil gets out of the way. Not part of the family.
But I tell you this, if my sister raised me all in, I'd go run and tell my mother and she'd take care of it for me. But that's not going to happen here. Just look at that sober, solemn face.
Oh, look at that wry smile from Howard. There's a lot being said in that. His little sister's pushing him into a corner. It would put Howard all in if he were to call. It's a tough decision. And he throws it away.
Annie Duke using her big stack to bully her big brother.
Howard had the better hand, but Annie got the better of Howard that time. The sibling rivalry is on.
The World Series of Poker. Memorable moment number 3.
It was a great World Series for me. I was really pleased.
And that is going to clinch it. Annie Duke has won her first World Series of Poker bracelets.
When I won the hand that won the tournament, I just kind of sat there and it was like a delay. It was like, after I shook his hand and was like, congratulations, great. And then I'm like, wait, and then I got really excited.
Oh, it's been a long time coming. A lot of seconds here. A lot of them. Oh, see, I'm such a girl. In the end, I'm just a girl. I bet you've never seen a guy win a tournament and cry.
I had so many heartbreaks at the World Series where I had lost tournaments. So it was so great to get that monkey off my back and finally be like, yeah, you know what? I deserve to be a World Series champion. Obviously, we're brother and sister, and he's also my teacher. There's no way that I would be even close to the player I am today if it weren't for him.
She was really, really happy. I mean, it meant a lot to her, and it just all came out. It just came pouring out of her.
I'm so happy.
It was just so emotional for me that he showed up there and he saw me win, It was like, look, Bob, I did it, I won.
Yeah! Is this all mine? Totally, it's so exciting. Thank you for watching me. Thank you.
Wow, that moment for Annie really capped off a terrific World Series for women players this year, Norm.
3 women won Open World Series events this year. Cindy Violette, Kathy Liebert, and Annie Duke. Heck, we gave women the right to vote. We've put them on the Supreme Court. Now we're letting them play poker. Where will it all end, Lon?
They're taking over the world, Norm. $138,000 in a bracelet for Annie's win. She's playing for $2 million today. Her brother, Howard Lederer, with a Jack-10 suited. You hear a lot of people call him Bub. His nickname used to be Bubba because he used to be a much larger man. He lost a lot of weight, so they cut the nickname in half. Over to Annie Duke with an ace-king unsuited.
Hi,
Raise.
Annie again with the big stack, and this time the big hand. And she's going to try to muscle her brother again.
And the raise from Annie, $100,000. Phil Hellmuth immediately gets out of the way again. An action back to Bub. He's not happy about it.
No, he's got that, are you kidding me look on his face, Lon. I pick up another big hand, and you're going to raise me again? She may not be coming over for Thanksgiving dinner this year, Lon.
And again, Howard Lederer folds to Annie Duke.
He shot her a little glance.
And in Howard's head, I can hear right now, Mom? Mom?
You heard Howard say before that Annie's gotten the better of him in World Series play. And again here today in the Tournament of Champions, Annie's getting the better of so far.
The antes are still 4,000, the blinds 12,000 and 24,000.
Man, this room's gotten so quiet, you can actually hear Phil Hellmuth thinking to himself that he's the best player at the table.
Annie Duke with sixes. Those are popular cards today. And she'll open with 70,000. Over to Phil. He's got a 7 and an 8. And the clubhouse door says, get out. Over to Howard Lederer. Couple of 7s. He can play those.
Maybe a chance to exact some revenge on his sister.
Come on.
With what seems to be almost a sense of reluctance, Howard goes all in against his sister.
Decision now to Annie with the pocket sixes.
I call.
Howard, the short stack medium pair, will be all in. His tournament life at stake.
And he gets what he wants, a 4-1 favorite. And Annie knows she's in trouble. Her brother in a commanding position to get right back into the thick of things and take nearly half of her stack.
And here comes the flop. Annie gets her 6 and a full house.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
And she immediately feels horrendous for her brother.
What a tournament this is to handle emotionally. They've played together for so long, but never for $2 million, never been in this type of position. The 9 on the turn, no help for Howard.
And now on the river, Howard will need a queen or a 7 to make a better full house than Annie, or he will be going home.
The river card now. It's a 3, and that's the end of the line for Howard Lederer. Annie Duke knocks her big brother out.
I'm sorry, Howard.
Boy, as a poker player, Annie forced to go for the kill, but when it was all over, she's just Howard's little sister trying to console him. Oh, this is very difficult for Annie.
Wow, what a 6, Annie.
You see her emotions, and it reminds you of how difficult it is for Serena and Venus Williams to play against each other. You're happy to win, but you're sad to see your sibling lose.
You must have mixed feelings about that, baby.
No, Annie already talked tonight about trying to avoid the emotional swings. This one, too big to ignore.
Wow.
The Never Flinch Hand is brought to you by Lee Dungarees, who reminds you no matter what happens, don't flinch.
I know what it's like to have 6s against 7s or kings against queens. And for it to be my brother that has to lose when it's such a huge money situation.
I'm all in.
I call.
I've never knocked Annie out of the tournament. She's knocked me out of 4 now. I mean, if I had to go broke to somebody, I certainly want it to be Annie.
Oh, God. He's such a great player, and he was playing so well today, and he didn't deserve to lose. I'm sorry, Hal. It's very hard for me.
Annie didn't flinch in that hand, but she did feel bad about it afterward. $2 million might help ease the pain, though.
Sure, my makeup looks like crap now after crying. So I always cry in tournaments. It's ridiculous.
Phil looks very
You
sympathetic.
need to be a man. Take it like a man.
We are heads up. The $2 million on the table. Winner take all. Second place, nothing.
And it's hard to predict that we would have ended up with these two. Annie Duke's certainly not a favorite in this group. I got to tell you, though, Phil Hellmuth, even though he takes a lot of grief from his competitors, he may be the best tournament Hold'em player in the world. All 9 of his World Series bracelets have come in Hold'em.
And he's got the lead now with an ace-3 to the jack-deuce of Phil Hellmuth. And to the flop, Phil flops a 2 for a pair.
Nothing for Annie.
Phil did tell me before the tournament started that the strongest player will win this. There will be no fluke.
Check.
And of course, Phil believes he is the strongest player.
Both players check, and Annie finds an ace on the turn.
Phil would consider that a fluke, that he's just gone behind.
And he'll bet $45,000 with his deuces. Norm, that's an awful lot of cash to have on the table. It's got to be a distraction.
Oh, you get used to it. Heck, every time I walk into my divorce lawyer's office, he's got this much cash on his desk.
And he will just call.
Phil does not look terribly happy with that call.
River card is a 7, no help. Annie Duke has the hand 1 if she doesn't fold.
Check.
She'll push with 30,000. The radar has blips on the screen.
Yeah, Phil just with a pair of deuces right now. Any of the other board cards are paired, he's a loser.
He'll call it, and Annie shows him her aces. Well, Phil is visibly upset over losing that heads-up pot to Annie Duke, but still relatively quiet for Phil. Time after time, he's been promising a kinder, gentler Phil Hellmuth. Maybe he is evolving.
You know, I'm trying to change myself to be a better man. Buddhist meditation, you're supposed to just be kind of asking, who am I, until you get down to the basic essence of you. By the way, I expect great things to continue to happen to me the rest of my life. I just expect great things to continue to happen to me. I'm a family man, and I have a lot of love for all of my family. And I'm very thankful to the universe, to the powers that be, to God, whoever you believe in. I'm very thankful. I'm 10 times blessed, 10 times blessed. And thank you very much to the powers that be out there. Thank you to the universe.
If I can speak to the powers that be directly, what the heck are you thinking?
I would have preferred to play your brother. He's not as lucky as you are.
This is all right, you know. I'm just happy to be in the final two. I mean, seriously, I donked my money off in the first 2 hours. Somehow, some way.
These two have been sparring verbally much of this tournament.
We've talked a lot about how successful Phil has been throughout his career, but today's win would be the single biggest tournament payday in his life. He's got to be sweating. There's nothing for second. Back in 1989, to give you some perspective, when he won it all, $755,000 for first place.
You see their cards, Jack 3 and Queen 3. When your head's up, the quality of starting hands you play goes down.
And now the flop, 10, 3, 7, each with threes. The queen for Phil gives him the advantage.
45,000.
And he'll bet 45,000. Like Phil, Annie doesn't mind seeing the 3 on the board. She'll call. And another 3 on the turn.
Well, that's an action 3, Lon. I mean, they're both thinking bingo, but Annie's got a bad bingo card. Phil's got the better hand with the better kicker.
With the big stack, Annie has been successful pushing her brother around. Now, here with Phil Hellmuth, she has to act after Phil bets. 90,000 from Phil.
Yeah, he might have played it a different way. He might have checked and hoped that Annie was going to make a bet and trapped her.
I'm all in.
And he's going to push. All in. And Phil can't wait to get all in.
I don't see how this is the better man that Phil is advertising.
Wow. Nice hand, Phil.
And he has Phil covered.
Hold him.
So it's Phil who is at risk to lose this tournament.
If a jack comes up on the river, he would be eliminated.
And it is a 6, and Phil wins. Phil chose a perfect moment to move in. Maybe a little surprised to see Annie's 3, but his kicker saved the day.
And with that kicker, Phil seizes the chip lead. Annie's used to playing from behind, though, today.
25.
And I'm sure one of the first things Howard taught Annie is you're not going to win every hand in poker. She lost a good chunk of her stack there. She needs to keep that even keel she talked about to have any chance of fighting back. Back at the Tournament of Champions, still heads up, Annie Duke and Phil Hellmuth. 2 million chips are in play. Players' stacks are about even right now. They've been sparring at the table with their cards and verbally sparring. But when it comes to verbal sparring at the World Series, nothing could match the battle of Jack High.
The World Series of Poker. Memorable moment number 2.
In one corner, Alex Powers. In the other, Jim McManus. Let the battle begin.
Betting the dart. You're disrespecting the game.
Was I raising the dart? You think that's disrespect because I raising the dart?
No, you got that
right. I might
right.
do it every time now.
Powers exited early, but he left a lasting impression.
He called it a jack high. He called it a jack high.
This guy's good for poker.
How is it good?
You don't think he's good for poker?
No.
You got the table tilted. He's so mad he called me a jack high. Can you believe that? Jack high!
Well, Norm, pay-per-view boxing has its moments, but how about pay-per-view Phil and Alex Powers?
Oh, double mute button.
Phil Hellmuth, ace-9, couple of hearts. He'll call the big blind. Annie Duke, 2 6s again. Wow.
I raise.
Raise.
80,000.
Annie raises 80,000 with the pocket 6s over to Phil.
I call.
You know, Lon, when this tournament began, it seemed to me that Annie was playing scared, but as the tournament has progressed, she has become more aggressive. She's taken on more of the characteristics of her brother. That can't be a bad thing.
There's a flop, and that is not a bad thing. She flops another full house. Wow.
You need flop insurance against Annie. She's had some great flops, and she will check to try to sucker Phil into a bet.
Phil only has the ace high to go with the 2 kings on the board.
Check.
He will check. So to the turn, a 10 of diamonds, it's a blank. Annie gets the check mark. She'll only lose if she folds.
And she will have to pull the trigger now. She couldn't get Phil to do her bidding last time. She'll do it herself.
She announces 150,000.
What the heck is going on here?
Phil's taking the shades off. With or without the glasses, it's still king, 6-10 on the board, Phil. We're getting a little Hamlet from Phil, and there's not a whole lot going on here. He's got nothing.
Trapped her 4 times. She finally went for it. And then what, she just outdrew me or what? She's won every freaking race.
This isn't a race. It's an avalanche.
Put a stop to this.
Is he running for elected office?
He could stop it all by folding.
Doesn't seem to be much of a decision here. All he has is ace high.
And after posing, Phil will fold it.
You win.
Actually, she didn't win much, although Phil's acting like he gave away his firstborn.
Annie and Phil have been trading the lead back and forth. Annie, with that small pot, takes a slight advantage at the moment.
That was a key hand. I think you outdrew me.
It wasn't a key hand, and she didn't outdraw him.
I think you got lucky.
Well, if it's lucky to start with the best hand and then flop the nuts.
That's lucky.
But I was looking for one of those where you raise it and then just go all in.
I wish I had then. I would have had all your chips.
I called because I know you're going to bet big, no matter what you hit. And I had a strong hand finally, really strong hand.
I guarantee I had the best hand the whole time, Phil.
Annie was a psychology major in college. Maybe she knows how to play Phil Hellmuth. Phil with a king 7 offsuit. He will call the big blind. Annie Duke with a suited king 9. Couple of spades, and she will check. Both have kings. Annie has the better kicker with the 9. And the flop, each player pairs their king, but Annie gets 2 pair.
I check.
Yeah, this hand spells trouble for Phil Hellmuth because he's made top pair, but he doesn't know his opponent has 2 pair. And heads up, you love top pair. Phil has bet 35,000.
I raise.
Annie says she's going to raise.
120.
120,000 chips.
He is troubled by the raise. As I mentioned earlier, he's got to like his top pair, but when she check raises him here, he's got to be concerned.
Any player would have trouble laying down a couple of kings. And Phil will not lay them down here, and he'll make the call. Oh, he doesn't look like he's entirely sold on the concept. Now the turn. It's a jack of clubs, no help for Phil. Annie first to act.
I'm all in.
And he's going to move all in once again. And that cannot sit well with Phil.
This is unbelievable.
Cue tape.
Really unbelievable.
Mount Hellmuth ready to erupt.
She might not even know how strong I am here. I'm not sure she fully understands even the value of the hand this time.
You can get tickets to the Ice Capades or the producers all you want. I'll take Phil Hellmuth any day of the week.
I don't know. I have a bad feeling about this hand.
Well, but he's right, and Phil will fold.
He shows the king.
Well, Annie had a king also. But she shows only the 9.
Wow, just a 9.
Oh, that will mess with Phil's head.
I had a bad feeling you had me, Annie. Didn't you know when I called 120 more, I had to have at least a king?
Why didn't you call him?
I thought maybe you got lucky and flopped 2 pairs, though.
He was right.
Actually, you're trying to, you know what, maybe that was a bad laydown. I assume you're trying to play the best poker you can play, but you might be just saying, let me just give Phil the best hand for all the money.
That might be.
By showing him that one card, she could be scrambling up Phil's brain.
I had a bad feeling if I said all in, you were going to say, I'd call 2 pair.
But he had made the right read on that hand.
Wow, would you really push it in with a 9? That's so reckless. Especially against someone like me.
In his mind, no one can outplay him.
Wow, maybe I acted too fast there.
But clearly the psych major's gotten into his mind.
Wow.
The World Series of Poker Tournament of Champions is proudly brought to you by Harrah's Entertainment. Memorable moment number 1.
In a World Series that featured record turnouts, huge prize pools, and exciting action, one trend, one group stood out above all else. 21-year-old, 23-year-old, 24-year-old James Vogel, Thomas Thunder Keller, Dutch Boyd, Brett Youngblood, Gavin Griffin, one of the young guns.
We are going to take over the poker world.
A pack of friends called the Crew led the youth movement's charge.
I'm a world champion, baby.
And throughout the main event and the entire World Series, it became clear there is a changing face of poker, and that face is a young one.
Yes! Yeah! We own the World Series of Poker. We own it. We're all under 24. Forget it.
That was the number 1 moment of 2004, and now 2 players are left, hoping to make one more memorable moment in the World Series. The big moment is nearing at this Tournament of Champions. Annie Duke has knocked out a third of the field, including her own brother. And Phil Hellmuth has reminded us why he is considered one of the all-time best.
Yes! What a card!
They are the last 2 standing, but only one can go home with the prize.
All right, Phil, let's do it. $2 million.
They both want the money, but they both want this title for other reasons as well. Phil Hellmuth's been in a dry spell in terms of winning tournaments, and Annie Duke, one of the top players, is still a woman in a man's world, and she'd love to beat the best of the guys.
Well, you know, even if you had a 9 in that hand, I mean, you had a lot of heart anyway. That's all you had.
Yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing. I thought a 9 was good, Phil.
Phil's still yapping about that previous hand when Annie flashed the 9.
Thought it was the nuts.
And she's still playing them.
Phil with a pair of 3s. He calls the big blind to Annie Duke with an ace-3.
90.
And a 90,000 chip raise.
Raise 90 more.
Well, it's sword play on this poker table. They keep going back and forth with each other. Phil a little frustrated, and he will call.
Annie Duke with a big chip lead right now. And here's the flop. And trailing in the hand, Annie finds nothing in that flop.
And Phil's a pocket pair. And a pocket pair and heads up is something you're usually comfortable with.
Without much of a hand, Annie checks over to Phil.
Phil probably figures he has the best hand. We know he does. And he wants to start extracting chips out of Annie.
90,000 is the bet from Phil Hellmuth.
Now, if Annie Duke decides to check raise, oh my goodness, we'd see Phil on a trampoline with explosives.
Well, Annie Duke will shy away from this hand.
God dang it all, I should have moved in before the flop.
Phil's still not happy even when he wins.
Are you saying you had a good hand, Phil?
I had a pocket pair.
Oh, that board looked pretty good for a pocket pair.
Yeah, no, I know. Considering the flop, I wish I would have moved in before the flop, that's all I'm saying.
Sorry I couldn't accommodate you.
You gave me the raise.
Yeah.
I just didn't go with it.
And he's got Phil second-guessing every move he makes and every move he doesn't make. Phil Hellmuth at about a 3-to-1 disadvantage on the chip count right now. Checking his pocket cards, 10-8, unsuited.
Call.
Just a call of the big blind. Annie Duke. King 10.
And she will put no more into the pot, and we will see the flop.
And each pair, they're 10. Annie with a better kicker, though, with the king.
Emilio's scenario, they share a card, and Annie's got the better of it with the better kicker. She checks. Phil ready to act with
45.
High pair, and he will bet 45,000.
I raise.
Annie Duke is going to raise Phil Hellmuth.
Well, we heard Phil talking about earlier how he's trying to trap Annie. Well, she's had the cards to continue to try to sucker him out of more chips.
200.
And she's going to raise 200,000 as she has set her trap.
She said aggression would be a key in this tournament, and she is trying to prove that theory right now.
Phil liked this flop. He got top pair, but now he's been check raised.
I'm all in.
And with that top pair, Phil Hellmuth going all in with his 450,000 chips. Annie Duke put the pressure on Phil when she check raised him. And now with Phil's all-in call, the pressure is back on Annie.
About 450 more.
She set the trap, but Phil has come back very strong.
I call.
Annie calls the all-in. And Phil sees what he's up against.
And Annie is overcome with emotion, seeing how close she is to winning this championship.
Annie has control of his hand. Now here comes the turn. It's a 7. No help for Phil.
Annie Duke is now one card away from $2 million.
Me an 8, please.
Phil Hellmuth needs an 8 to win this pot. Both players on their feet anticipating the river card. It's a 3. Annie Duke has defeated 9 of the strongest poker players in the world and wins the first ever World Series of Poker Tournament of Champions.
What the is going on? Unbelievable. She won every race for 2 days. Damn it. Show up with king 10. Overpair against overpair. She check raised me 6 times. I know she didn't have it all 6 times.
Oh my God, I won. Oh.
She had to be 30-1 to win this. I love Annie, but
well, you heard Phil, and he was right. Annie was definitely a long shot to win this all, but as the only female at the table, she is now the last man standing.
Oh.
Another second from me. Second, third. No money.
All right, let me call my brother.
She wins $2 million.
Oh, you heard Annie Duke.
She's moving in with ace 4.
She's going to give her brother Howard a call.
I won. Oh my God, I won.
This has got to be a proud moment for little sis.
Oh God, Howard, I'm so sorry about the 6s.
But clearly a bittersweet moment as well.
I see it, but I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. I just can't believe it.
And then there's bitter only.
I threw away top pair against her 3 times because I knew I was going to eventually get
Phil
her.
Hellmuth continues the vent, but meanwhile, Annie Duke is being presented the inaugural Harris Trophy by Harris Vice President of Specialty Games, Howard Greenbaum. And also the $2 million is in front of Annie, and the winning cards tucked inside that stack of cash. A win that tops off an incredible 2004 World Series of Poker full of memorable moments.
Welcome to the 35th Annual World Series of Poker. At this time,
Shuffle up and deal.
Arms are hot and sweaty. Hope my heart is ready. Here goes.
I'm all in.
Fast.
Let's gamble, baby.
Check the rearview mirror. Memories getting nearer. I can't.
Oh, look at this.
Let it pass. Driving myself crazy. I'm losing control. Looks like I'm headed down a rough and rocky road. Heartbreak.
I'm sorry.
If there weren't luck involved, I guess I'd win every one.
Each turn I take leads me back to you.
disrespecting the game.
Call it a jack high.
Whoa! TJ Cloutier has a special fan here.
Look at my wife.
I have one thing to say, boys. And then blibbity blabbity, blibbity blibbity.
7 or 10. 10!
I don't lie.
You got lucky.
Something started shaking and falling apart.
Yes!
If something's breaking up, it's gotta be my heart. Heartbreak highway, fast lane to the
How many chips have you got? Not near as many as I did.
Each turn I take leads me
Further.
back to you. Yeah! It's a thrill.
Poker's nice. I love to play poker.
And he loves poker too, especially after winning $2 million and the first ever World Series of Poker Tournament of Champions.